Hello everyone, Counterspell here, back with another EH guide. I cannot speak today. Before we get into the video, please leave a like and subscribe. And please comment on this video. Be the first to comment, and you can make an EDH request. Make sure the commander you're requesting to have on this channel isn't already featured. And if you want like a specific style, like Ramos equipment or Voltron deck store style, just let me know. And I don't forget to hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss another one of my videos. And with that said, let's get into this commander. Oh, actually, one more thing. Tomorrow I will be doing the request for Tetsuo Imperial Champion. But for today, I will be doing Soul of Windgrace. We haven't seen Windgrace for a really long time. I think it was back in the Commander set where dual colored planeswalkers were once again featured as commanders. I think it was Commander 2016. I am not for certain. But Soul of Windgrace here is definitely better than the last version. The last one wasn't bad. It's just this one can do a lot more within a turn. So this deck is focused around discarding land cards from our hand to do different things. So we have a bunch of discard effects, and some cards tell us to do even more with our discard effects. So with that said, let's get into it. Boom is here. We saw this in our last deck tech, or a recent one. The second line of text is what you want to focus in on because that's where we can get a lot of mana from. Because we're not focused around discarding creature cards or non-land, non-creature cards, but more around discarding land cards, so we'll be able to get mana from it. So I definitely recommend this card for this deck, but you decide that this is a guide, not a must, which means you can choose. Primeval Bounty, because of landfall, because we're going to be getting lands from our graveyard when onto the battlefield when our commander attacks. These other two lines of text don't really focus on them all that much. They just happen to be there, and they'll give you benefits if you happen to trigger them off. The Gitrog monster, however, you do want, because this can end up drawing you a bunch of cards and make sure you don't fall too far behind in your land board state by allowing you to play an additional land on each one of your turns, and ends up drawing you cards whenever one or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, and that can be from your hand. So this goes along greatly with this commander, so definitely recommend this card too. Not to mention 6/6 Death Touch. World Shaper is in here because when it dies, we'll be able to get all of our lands from our graveyard onto the battlefield tapped, and can help put more land cards into our graveyard, so that way Soul of Windgrace can get them back out onto our field. Avenger of Zendikar, you know what's in here, landfall, that's why. We'll be able to buff up our plants multiple times throughout a turn, two at the least, because we play one land from our hand and then we get the attack trigger from Soul of Windgrace. We have Ramanop Excavator. That way we aren't punished. That way we can use us. Well, first of all, we aren't punished as harshly for missing our land drops or getting milled by someone else, because if we add this out, then we can play our lands from our graveyard. But we aren't punished also if we have to discard a land card using Soul of Windgrace to draw a card, if we really need a land on that turn. With Ramanop Excavator, that consequences completely ignored. Centaur Vinecrasher will get progressively bigger throughout the game. The more lands we end up discarding because of Soul of Windgrace. And whenever land cards go into a graveyard from anywhere, we can just simply pay double green, and we'll be able to get Centaur Vinecrasher back from our graveyard into our hand. Omnixilus the Fallen can grow at a rapid rate. He'll be getting at least 6 +1/+1 counters a turn if we play a land from our hand and get one off of Soul of Windgrace. And that's going to start adding up to a lot of life loss and a really big creature. Fortunately, he can't fly, even though he's a demon. Rampaging Bailouts can give us a big army, allow us to have something to fall back on if need be. Great token creation, would definitely recommend this deck as well. Any landfall payoffs that do something that is really beneficial probably should be put in this deck. Omnath, Locus of Rage, can give us 5/5s and punishes our opponent for messing with our elementals, or if our elementals just happen to die in combat. Then we can start pinging. Then we can start punishing our opponent. Scoot Swarm, also a big recommendation because of how out of hand it gets. Because soon you'll be getting copies of Scoot Swarm before you know it, because if you're able to, you're getting at least 2 lands out per turn, if not more. And we have ways to do that in this deck as well. You'll find out later down the line. But this can get out of hand fast, and especially in these types of decks. So recommend that one as well. Caustic Crawler can get rid of some annoying 1/1s, at least 2 per turn, or take off a little bit of damage. That way we can attack, knowing that at least a little bit more of our stuff will survive, or is more likely to. Retreat to Hagra can give us the landfall trigger can give us our creature's evasion in the form of Death Touch and buff them up, or we can start draining our opponents and keep ourselves in the game. Ghoul draws Overseer. God, I cannot speak. This can end up buffing up our entire team and help us secure the win out of nowhere. Especially if we play 2 swamps in a row, automatically that's all of our creatures getting +4/+0 until the end of turn. And even if it's not a swamp, this is still buffing up our entire board state. So definitely helpful. Would recommend that one as well. Seer's Sundial. More card draw, so we don't have to use Windgrace's ability to discard a land card to draw a card. We can instead discard for a singular green mana to gain 3 life, attack with Windgrace, get a land from our graveyard, and then use Seer's Sundial to draw a card. Definitely helps. Retreat to Kazandu can buff up our creatures and keep us around the game. Just like Retreat to Hagra, only it just keeps us more around the game longer than Retreat to Hagra would. But combined, they can drain your opponent and keep you in the game for a really long time. Corsair of Crucifix help us keep ourselves in the game even longer, and lets us play lands off the top. So we have 3 opportunities to play land, or maybe even 2 within a turn. We can play off the top from our hand, and one that will be guaranteed if it's in there is from our graveyard because of Windgrace, if we have a mount. So this essentially guarantees 1 or 2 lands a turn for us. Zendikar's Royal, just to give us some nice blockers. can end up building an army for us, so we could eventually end up attacking with those 2/2s, but they may just be chump blockers, just like the tokens that Spore Mound produces. They're just 1/1s. If you're able to buff them up, though, you might be able to get somewhere with it. Tireless Provisioner can give us mana and life thanks to the food tokens or treasure tokens, whichever one you choose, to create whenever a land enters battlefield under our control. One gives us mana, the other gives us life. Tireless Tracker investigates whenever land enters battlefield under our control. So this gives us card draw in the form of clues. And this gets bigger as we sacrifice more clues. So great card to have in this deck. Grazing Gladeheart, just a nice card to have in case you're in like a tight situation or you're playing against someone that's like black-red or something. Keep your life steady. Kazandu Nectar Pot does the same thing. It's not as good as Glazing Gladeheart. I almost said Guildheart. Glazing Gladeheart, but you can get Kazandu Nectar Pot out earlier and start triggering it off more. Jedi Offshoot can get you the earliest life gain. Well, life gain that is the life gain that you can get as soon as possible. That's what I'm trying to say. Because you can play this for only 1 green mana. It's a defender that's an 0/3. So you have a good blocker that gives you life whenever land enters battlefield under your control. Spitfire Lagak, however, can start pinging our opponents, and that damage will eventually start to add up. Kusai's Ravager does the same thing. Jeez, just to one target player. Alcom Hellkite can end up dealing 2 damage to a creature or player if the land entering the battlefield was a mountain. If not, just 1 damage. Dragon Master Outcast can start making us 5/5s, and it's really cheap in mana. Probably not cheap online. Geode Rager is a great one. Would definitely recommend this in most landfall decks that involve red, because this forces your opponent to attack someone else whenever land enters battlefield under your control. And we're going to be getting 1, if not 2, at least per turn, thanks to our commander and being able to play land from our hand. So this is a lot more survivability. So definitely, most likely a must-have in this deck. You don't have to have it, but it's really nice to have, especially in like tight situations where you don't have many blockers. Can help you close out a game as well. Nesting Dragon creates some tokens, some chump blockers at first, but then those tokens die and turn into 2/2 flyers that eventually adds up to a lot of damage. Oran Reef Hydra can get really big thanks to landfall. And if we happen to be putting out forests for it, then it's going to get even bigger, even quicker. Cultivator Colossus can just get a lot of lands onto our battlefield and draw us a bunch of cards. They could get us 1, it could get us like 20. Who knows? However, it will get progressively bigger because of what our commander does. Scape Shift. This is a great card because what we could do is we could have like 10 lands out. Then you could use Scape Shift, sacrifice all 10 of those lands, find another 10, and then you've got 10 lands in your graveyard for Soul of Windgrace that you will eventually get out. So within time, you'll eventually have 20 lands. So Scape Shift is definitely a payoff in this deck. Retreat to Valakut can buff something up, or more importantly, can prohibit something from blocking. So if we want to close out the game, Retreat to Valakut may be the key. If we can get out enough lands. Ancient Green Warden is a must-have Again, you don't have to have it, but it pretty much is a must-have because it allows you to play land through your graveyard. It's a 5/7 with reach, and it doubles up landfall triggers. I think you now see what I'm saying about it being a must-have. Architect of the Untamed can be used to create 6/6 colorless beast artifact creature tokens within time. At the most, well, at the least, I should say 1 or 2 energy counters per turn. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4 turns or less. Depends on how many lands you're able to get out. Dryad of the Elysian Grove allows us to play an additional land on each of our turns and turns lands we control into every basic land type in addition to their other types. So now mana fixing really isn't a problem thanks to Dryad of the Elysian Grove. Blackblade Reforged can end up buffing up our commander a bunch. And it's a cheap artifact and with a cheap legendary creature equip cost. You can equip it to a legendary creature per 7 though. But the equipped creature is going to end up getting really big. Like I said, and like I'm going to keep on saying throughout this video, 1 or 2 lands per turn. Marag, Fury of Akam. So we won't get the additional combat if we attack with Windgrace and get a land off of him, because that will be during our combat. And we only get the extra combat if it's our main phase, but still, that's more triggers off of Soul of Windgrace. So that'll be more lands onto our battlefield by the end of the turn. Glinthorn Buccaneer allows us to deal damage while discarding land cards, and allows us to discard a card to draw a card, but only if it's attacking. Surly Badgesaur will get bigger. It won't get bigger, but it'll produce us a lot of mana. And if we end up discarding a non-creature non-land card for whatever reason, it'll fight something. And sure, we may end up discarding creature cards because of wheel effects, but it's mainly in here to create treasures for us. Horror of the Broken Lands will get really big within a turn, quite possibly. Archfiend of Ifnir could just end up killing everyone's voice state except for ours. There he is. If we discard enough cards, and this can end up killing something with indestructible and just generally preventing a lot of damage overall. So definitely would recommend Archfiend of Ifnir because of how many lands you'll be discarding, well, how many cards in general. Faith of the Devoted can start draining our opponents as long as we have the mana to do it and keep us around the game. Bag of Holding. So say we end up running low on cards, and we've been discarding a bunch of land cards to use Soul of Windgrace. What we can do is sacrifice Bag of Holding. Suddenly we've got a whole bunch of land cards back in our hand for when we need them. So Bag of Holding isn't a bad card. Ruthless Sniper. It's like Archfiend of Ifnir, but not as powerful, but still can help out. Dying to Serve will make us 1 token a turn if we end up discarding a card. Nest of Scarabs is to go along with Archfiend of Ifnir and Ruthless Sniper because, well, whenever we put one or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, we create that many 1/1 black insect creature tokens. And if we have Archfiend of Ifnir out, just think of how many 1/1s we could possibly get. Feast of Sanity. Just end up draining our opponent or dealing 1 damage to any targets and gaining on Sworn Life. So we could get rid of some annoying little 1/1s and keep ourselves around. Then we've got Sheltered Thicket, Canyon Slaw, Biting Briar Patch, because these are lands that can get themselves into our graveyard. That way we can play them from the graveyard. Blighted Woodland. So what I would definitely recommend is search lands, because you can use them multiple times in this deck with Soul of Windgrace. So what we would do, play Blighted Woodland, sacrifice it, search for 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped. Now Blighted Woodland is in our graveyard. We attack with Soul of Windgrace. We bring Blighted Woodland back out. We sacrifice it again. Suddenly we've played 6 lands in a turn, and have ended up with like 4 that are permanently on our battlefield, along with everything else. Same thing with Evolving Wilds. We play this in 1 turn, crack it, we get a basic land, it's a battlefield tap. Attack with the Windgrace, we play this out, crack it again. Suddenly we've got 2 more lands and we've gotten off 4 landfall triggers. Prismatic Vista, same thing. Myriad Landscapes is the same thing as Blighted Woodland. We can get off like, well, it enters battlefield tapped, but still can get us a lot of lands. Blighted Fen could slowly whittle away at our opponent's board states. We could get rid of like 2 creatures the turn we play this from our hand. I mean, 10 mana kind of expensive, but still, for people whose board states are kind of limited, that could help secure the kill. Spawning Bed can give us some tokens that we can use as mana or chump blockers. Ghost Quarter, we can do something evil with, and eventually run our opponent out of lands by continuously destroying their lands, having them search for a basic land card, and we keep on playing this with Soul of Windgrace. Eventually what will happen is we'll have used Ghost Quarter so many times on our opponent's lands that they will have run out of lands to search for, and eventually they'll have nothing. So unless they're running artifacts, this could eventually end up screwing someone completely over. Then we have Mystifying Maze, because Soul of Windgrace also Soul of Windgrace also has the ETB effect. Soul of Windgrace is kind of like those Titan cards you see, where they have, with their ETB effect and their attack effect, do the same thing. So if we attack with Soul of Windgrace, we get 1 land from our graveyard. Then we use Mystifying Maze, exile Soul of Windgrace. Oh wait, this only used on them. I didn't pay attention. My bad. I assume Maze of Its does the same thing. Probably would just put a cycling land card in here. My mistake. Definitely do not recommend this. Although this could be nice if someone ends up destroying it, you could just get it back with Soul of Windgrace, so you have some utility there. I was thinking we could use this to get more out of Windgrace within a turn. There probably is a land that does that. I just didn't get the correct one. Then we have 13 basic swamps, 13 basic forests, and 13 basic mountains. And with that said, the end of this EDH guide starring Soul of Windgrace from Dominar United. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and be sure to comment. If you're the first to comment, you can make an EDH request. We're speaking about that. I'll be fulfilling an EDH request tomorrow. And it'll be Tetsuo, Imperial Champion. So stick around for that. But if you're not the first to comment, anyways, just give me feedback, anyways. I like feedback from you guys. It shows me what I'm doing right and shows me that you care, and that means something to me. But about EDH requests, just name the commander. Make sure it hasn't already been featured on this channel. And oh yeah, if you want a specific style of it, so like Voltron XYZ or Ramos Artifacts, just let me know. Hit the notification bell, that way you don't miss another one of my videos. And I will see you later. I think that's it. See ya.